Hey guys, Parfex here, and we're bringing you another PvP tier list video. All right, let's get started. Okay, so we're here on Tier Maker, and we're bringing you another video. Now, I recorded this earlier, and it was like 18 minutes long, and I didn't want to make it that long for you guys. So we're going to try to get through this very quickly. So we're not going to go super in depth on all of these, and I promise this is going to be the most long-winded explanation, hopefully, of this video. All right, let's get into Fire Staff. Now, as you can see here, if you look at the last weapon, we do have the Blunderbus on here, and this is going to be 100% speculative. It was really good on the PTR, received a nerf, but we'll talk about that one. Probably the weapon we talk about a little bit the most. So first, we're going to go Fire Staff, and we're going to put it in the above average tier list. So the Fire Staff did get some buffs recently, which put it basically from average up to above average. Now, standalone, the Fire Staff is still pretty good. It's probably in between above average and top tier. I debated about putting it in the top tier, but it has no CC. It has some situation abilities that people typically don't use. And it has one sort of get out of jail free card, or one travel skills, I like to call them, but it can be interrupted pretty easily. So it is a very good weapon, and they will reach at the top of the charts because they get a lot of free damage in OPRs and in wars. Which is the reason why we're putting it in the above tier list. But if this had to be like an above average plus, it would probably be that weapon, and probably right in between the top tier and above average. Next, we have Life Staff. We're not going to talk a whole lot about Life Staff. We're putting the top tier. You can argue that it needs to be nerfed, but I don't think so. You can actually kill healers here. I think there's actually another weapon that is more of a problem with the Life Staff, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But right in the top tier, there's nothing new. It hasn't really changed a whole lot over the last month or two. Ice Gauntlet, we're going to put the Ice Gauntlet actually in the top tier. Now, I think people are going to be a little bit weary of why I put it here. I mean, it did get some nerf to Ice Pylon, but Ice Gauntlet, especially paired with any other weapon, is absolutely, or any other int weapon, is pretty much god tier. The amount of damage and CC that this weapon brings is absolutely crazy. I personally, if I was going to run, let's say, a Rapier, I'd probably rather go Ice Gauntlet Rapier than Fire Staff Rapier. Now, you're not going to pull the crazy amount of damage, and your numbers aren't going to look as good. But when it comes to group utility, you're going to just be off the charts better with an Ice Gauntlet, in my opinion. The CC it brings is crazy. I would probably run, if I ran the Rapier build, I would definitely run Ice Pylon, Ice Shower, Ice Storm. That might be a build coming up in the future. But I think it's really good. And it's very, very good and very lot of damage as well with the amount of CC it brings. You can just basically, if you catch somebody in Ice Shower, you can just kill them. Void Gauntlet, we're going to put it in the above average tier. Now, this will be another video I want to do, and I think the melee Void Gauntlet is OP right now. Now, and by OP, I mean top tier, not necessarily needs nerfed, but Void Gauntlet melee was really, really good when it came to going against other melee users. The Void Gauntlet melee is absolutely crazy against other melee users, and people aren't utilizing it right now. So maybe look to see a couple Void Gauntlet videos coming out in the future about that. But for right now, we're going to put it above average tier because people aren't using it nearly as much, which I think they're sleeping on it just a little bit, but we're going to keep it there. Next, you have Sword and Shield, and the Sword and Shield, we're going to put in the average category. Now, I think the Sword and Shield is an absolutely great weapon in the game. It suffers from two specific things. One, right now, the shield still does not give you stats, so it is hard to use it as a secondary weapon. If you use a Sword and Shield, you kind of need to use it as your primary weapon. Two, it is a fantastic and absolutely crazy 1v1 weapon, but it really relies on its stun, which can be easily broke if any like random Life Staff user or any random user at all just taps them, and then you break that CC, so it really hinders the play of it. But this weapon is by no means bad, but it really, really, really relies on someone not being hitting them and allowing you to actually get your combo off. Rapier, we're going to put it right up here in the needs nerfed category. Now, I think two abilities on this weapon need nerfed, and that is going to be Evade and Riposte. I think Riposte needs to lose about 20 to 25% of its immunity duration on the Riposte itself. So that may be a little bit controversial, but if you go look back at my previous video that I did with the bow, I did a bow like sort of montage video. You can see there was a time where I should have got caught out. I did. Some guy come up behind me. He hit me with a Warhammer, and he went to CC me. I swapped to my Rapier. I hit a Riposte. I hit it too early, but because the duration was so long, I was still able to do it and get away. I shouldn't have got away in that situation. And if they nerf the invulnerable duration for that, I think it's going to be a little bit better. And then with Evade, I would either add the cooldown on it a little bit more, or I would take some of the damage that you get when you hit an Evade off it. I tested out Tondo, Flurry, and Evade. And for burst damage purposes, Evade was just so much better than even Tondo. I tested it against another player, and even if the bleed ticked for a while, the Tondo would maybe do almost the equivalent of an Evade. But I'm basically front-loading all that damage on Evade, and it's just crazy. If you want to do the best like DPS combo you can do against a player, you can see it in my Assassin video, is you hit him with the riposte, then you do a fully charged heavy into an Evade, and that is so much damage. Then you can just flush through them, and if you have a lot of damage, it could just kill them. It's pretty crazy. Next, we have Hatchet. We're going to put Hatchet in the average tier. The Hatchet has the best ability in the game in Berserk, and it has not a whole lot else. Raging Torrent's not bad, and it's okay. Like, it's still not a great. If you took all of its abilities away and just used Berserk, I still think the weapon would be absolutely top tier. The whole right side of the tree is garbage. I wish they would take not rending throw. If they would take infected throw and make it instant cast, I think, and with a little bit bigger radius on its the little AoE that it puts down, I think it'd be a lot better weapon. You can get some heal cut on it. But honestly, the weapon's just not very good when in a lot of situations. Now, if they made the range on it bigger or better, made it like the Great Axe, it'd probably be in the needs nerf category because Berserk is so good. But we're going to put it down the average category. I know some people are going to actually have a problem with this, so make sure you put down in the comment section down below where I went right and where I went wrong with all of these weapons. Next, we have Spear. We're going to put the Spear up here in the top tier. I think the Spear is a very skill-based weapon for the most part, and I think it is really good. The one thing I love about the Spear is you can use all of its abilities in PvP, maybe except for Cyclone. If Cyclone actually sucked people in instead of pushed people out, I think this weapon would be even better. That's one thing I love about the Spear is you can run so many builds. You can run Skewer, Perforate, Sweep, what's the other one? Vault Kick. You can use pretty much every ability on the Spear, which makes it so much fun to use because you can actually tailor your build a little bit more. Next, we have Great Axe. It is, yeah, I'm just kidding. It's in top tier. The Great Axe, especially right now, Gravwell is kind of broken with how kind of buggy the servers are. Sometimes you can get out of it, sometimes you can't. We did 3v3 tournaments, and in the last round of the finals, my healer ended up getting caught in a Gravwell, used an ability to get out of it, which should have got him out of it, which it didn't, because the game kind of lagged, and he kept in it, and he died, then we lost. So this is a great, I mean, what else you can say? It's a great weapon. I've been using it a lot lately. It's just pretty insane. Next, we have Warhammer. It's definitely going up here in top tier. These two weapons have been essentially top tier for ever. They did have some times where they were like right in between top tier and above average. But what can I say? The amount of CC and damage this weapon brings is pretty crazy. We're going to skip bow for a second. We're going to go to Musket, and we're going to go to the average. This weapon, if you buff it, it's kind of like the Hatchet. If they over buff it just a little bit, it's going to go to the needs nerf category. It's going to be super oppressive. But if they go just a little bit too low, it's going to be in the average category. This weapon does get a nice little buff next patch because when you actually kill somebody in OPR, you're actually going to get the kill. When you have to reload after you kill someone, someone's just going to steal your kill no matter what. You're never going to pump out crazy amount of damage with the Musket. But if you're actually pretty good, you can actually utilize it pretty well. You can kind of maybe put pressures on healers. You can keep people off scaffoldings inside the OPRs. It can be used more as a utility weapon than just a straight kill weapon, but most people just try to use it more as a kill weapon. So we're going to put it in average. It probably needs a little bit of a buff, but I really don't want to see it buff because I actually hate the weapon. Next, we have the bow. Now, the bow is, I can see it being not great all the way up to needs nerf. Depends on your skill level. Now, and I don't mean to say that in a bad way, but it really takes a lot of time to get used to its basic attacks. And I know a lot of people that just absolutely can't use the bow right now with how laggy it is. It just makes the bow almost unusable. We're going to put it in above average tier just because it's kind of in between its ceiling and its floor. Now, like I said, I think the bow is as good as its user, and I guess as good as your ping and how the server's doing. The bow can be an absolutely insanely powerful weapon, the most powerful weapon in the game, at least when it comes to like casting. It's absolutely crazy, and could need nerf if they like up the hitbox for it. They might have to nerf the weapon. but with the hitboxes so tiny on the bow, and with the hitboxes just pretty much the way that the character looks, for a lot of people, it's very hard to use the bow. And you can still get some chip shot damage. That's why I put it in the above average category with like rain of arrows, poison shot, and penetrating shot. Now, a lot of people don't take rain of arrows, which I think is a massive mistake. They're going like the 1v1 build. If you're playing OPR, take rain of arrows. You do not need evade shot. Why people run that in OPRs, I have absolutely no idea. If you slap a rapier on your back bar, you don't need it. Get the extra kills with rain of arrows. Help your team out more when the people stack on the point. Just use rain of arrows. Last, but certainly not least, we have our speculative Blunderbuss pick. Now, I think this weapon is going to be more skill level, sort of in between the spear and the bow. I think this weapon is going to be possibly really, really good, top tier, maybe even needs nerf. Now, it did receive a nerf already, which is the reason why I'm definitely not putting it in the needs nerf category. But when people were testing this weapon out, they were testing it mainly against light armor users with no good perks, nothing on the PTR, with all base gear. Now, where I think this weapon's going to end up is we're going to put it in the above average category, because a lot of its abilities, like Claw Shot, is probably its best ability on the weapon, but it's really hard to hit. If you hit it, you can do a ton of damage to somebody right up in their face, but it's super hard to hit. Now, it also suffers from the strength passives. It's a strength mainly weapon, but a lot of the strength passives don't actually affect the Blunderbuss, or they're not very good for the Blunderbuss. So it puts itself in a really weird situation where you almost want to scale int, which is its secondary stat, and it's still pretty good there. I think int is actually going to be what the Blunderbuss really thrives on over something like, strength. Like most people wanted to go Blunderbuss, Blunderbuss Great Axe. Well, you'll find when you run that, the combo doesn't go very well. Blunderbuss Warhammer doesn't go that well either. Maybe Blunderbuss Spear could be decent. Blunderbuss Rapier could be pretty good. But what I saw people using a lot was like Blunderbuss Ice Gauntlet. Was kind of like, I think, what I would run if I was going to run the Blunderbuss. Now, I do have strength gear, so we're going to, when it comes out, we are going to use it with some strength. We're going to see how well it does. But from what I can tell, we're going to put it in the above average category because it's going to be harder to use. And it's just going to be a weapon that people are going to overestimate when this comes out. At least on the PTR, what originally you could just slap it in mortar and just start wailing people with it. But they did nerf it as well. So they nerfed the base damage on the Blunderbuss and they nerfed the mortar. So it got its damage nerfed pretty hard. So we're going to see when it comes out, you are going to see people with clips of people basically one-shotting squishies. But I mean, I can do that with a penetrating arrow. So having to get up in their face while you're in light armor with putting down 2 or 3 spells, it's I think it's okay. All right, guys, let me know where I went right, where I went wrong. Where do you think the Blunderbuss is going to be? That's going to be the biggest one here. Do you think it's going to be in the average category? Do you think it's going to be in top tier? Or do you still think it is going to need nerfed? All right, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.